Hello students, welcome to the online class of biology. Hope you all are safe and fine at home. Let's recap what we have discussed in the previous session. We have discussed about phyllotaxy. It is the arrangement of leaves on a stem. It helps to avoid overcrowding of leaves and also positions the leaves in such a way that they can receive the maximum sunlight for the process of photosynthesis to be carried out. Then we have discussed about the various types of phyllotaxy. The first one was alternate phyllotaxy, which is found in China rose, where only one leaf arises from each node and two successive leaves are in the opposite direction. We have also discussed about opposite phyllotaxy, where when two leaves arise from the same node but they are opposite to each other in direction, such type of arrangement is termed as opposite arrangement. Example is seen in guava and basil, that is tulsi. Then we have discussed about whorled phyllotaxy, where more than two leaves arise from the same node and they are arranged maybe in a circle or a whorl. Example, nerium. Then we have also discussed about venation. Venation is of two types, that is reticulate venation and parallel venation. In reticulate venation, veins and veinlets are irregularly distributed all over the lamina, that is the entire lamina. Example, people leaf. Then in parallel venation, veins arise from the midrib and run parallel to each other. The example is seen in banana and grass. There are many more examples. Then we have discussed about the functions of the leaves. The very first function of the leaf is manufacturing the food. The process which is involved is photosynthesis, where the plants take in carbon dioxide and prepare their food, which is utilized by the plants as well as it is indirectly taken by us also. And in this process, the gas which is released is oxygen gas, which supports life on earth. Then we have discussed about the second function of the leaf, and that is exchange of gases. The leaves have stomata present on the lower surface of the leaves, which help in the exchange of gases. That is, carbon dioxide gas is taken by the leaf for the manufacture of food, and in return it gives out oxygen, which is given out during the daytime. But at night, leaves also behave the same way. That is, they also take in oxygen and gives out or releases carbon dioxide. Then we have discussed about the third function of leaf, and that is transpiration. What is transpiration? Plants give out the extra water in the form of vapor through the leaf of the plant, and this way it helps keeping the plants cool. Now today we will learn about how in some plants leaves are modified to perform some special functions. We will learn about the different modifications a leaf can undergo in order to perform some different functions. Modification means a structural change due to functional needs. It is a change usually to make things work better. So, the first modification we are going to discuss today is known as leaf tendril. The leaf tendrils are spring-like structures or thread-like structures which are wiry, coiled, green structures. It looks somewhat like a coiled wire. They acquire this structure like a spring, which helps in climbing. These types of leaves are very sensitive to touch. Once they touch any support, they start coiling around that support, as you can see in grapes. These plants are mostly having weak stems. So, since the stem is weak and it cannot support its own structure, they require the help of the tendrils, which help in climbing. Otherwise, these types of plants, since they have weak stem, they will be lying on the ground and they cannot have proper sunlight due to that reason. If they will not be able to climb, it will not be able to find a support to climb, it will remain in the ground and it will not get proper sunlight because they will be coming under shade of the long or the larger plants. Hence, these types of tendrils are very important in climbing up with the help of a support. So, they are capable of coiling around the support and are therefore called as leaf tendrils. So, with this, we can conclude that in some plants, leaves are modified into thin, coiled, thread-like structures called tendrils. Called what? Leaf tendrils. They are sensitive to touch, means when it comes in contact with any support or any object, it coils around it and helps the plant to climb. Some other examples of the leaf tendrils are the wild pea, glory lily, and already you have seen one example of grapes. There are many more examples. Now, the next type of leaf modification is known as leaf spines. So let us first know the need of these leaves to modify into spines. These leaves modify into spines to protect the plants from the grazing animals like cow, goat, those animals which depend on plants for their food. That is, these plants modify into the leaves of these plants modify into spines for defensive purpose. The spines are hard, as you can see in the module. The spines are hard, pointed, sharp, needle-like structures. Hence, the grazing animals, they cannot feed themselves on these types of spines, or we can say that animals, they cannot feed on the plants having spines. The very important function of these spines is to reduce transpiration, as we have discussed in the previous session about transpiration. Do you remember? It is a process in which there is loss of water from the leaves, that is the aerial part of the plant. So this type of modification is mostly seen in case of plants which are found in xerophytic type of environment. Now, what is xerophytic type of environment? It is the environment where there is lack of water, or we can say that it has very dry type of climate. So if in such areas like in deserts, if there is presence of leaves, there will be loss of water due to transpiration. More water will be lost. But if these leaves are transformed into spines, they would not have stomata for transpiration, and they can check their water loss, and hence it becomes very important type of modification in xerophytic plants. So what do we conclude from this? We can conclude that in some plants the leaves are modified into sharp pointed structures called spines. They protect the plants from grazing animals. In desert areas where there is scarcity of water, that is lack of water, spines help to reduce water loss by transpiration. Some of the examples of leaf modification are prickly pear, prickly poppy, and the very common example is opuntia, that is commonly called as cactus. In all these examples in the module, you can see that the leaves are modified into spines. What for? To reduce the loss of water and also to protect the leaves from grazing animals. The next type of modification a leaf can undergo is scale leaves, which is a modification for storage of food, and it is also helping in protection of the leaves. A very common example, as you can see here in the module, in the picture, is onion. In onion, food is stored in the leaves. As you can see, the scale leaves are visible in the module in the cut piece of onion. These are the scale leaves where food is stored. In this scaly leaves only, the leaves become fleshy and juicy. What for? Why for? Why it becomes scaly? Or why does it become fleshy and juicy? Due to the storage of water and also the storage of mucilage. Now what is mucilage? It is a gluey or sticky type of substance which is produced in the scaly leaves of onion, and also it stores the food materials. So why do the scaly leaves become fleshy and juicy? It becomes fleshy and juicy due to the storage of water, then due to the storage of mucilage, and also due to the storage of food material. So with this we conclude that in some plants the leaves get modified as scales. That is the scale leaves. They may be thick and fleshy and store food and water as in onion. Now, the next topic which we have to discuss is modification of leaves in insectivorous plants. Here, you are going to learn about the insectivorous plants like bladderwort, pitcher plant, and Venus flytrap. Now before moving further, let me ask you a question. What are insectivorous plants? These are the plants which feed themselves on insects. That is, they can eat insects, right? Now the question arises, why do these plants eat insects? What is the need? So let me tell you that there are some plants which grow in infertile soil. The soil which is deprived of or which has lack of nutrients, especially nitrogen. As you know, nitrogen is very important for protein formation and also for the growth of the plants. So these plants, they trap and digest insects for their protein requirement. Therefore, we call these plants as insectivorous plants. We can also call them, because they eat insects, that is, we can call them as carnivorous plants. So the examples which we have in our syllabus are Venus flytrap, pitcher plant and bladderwort. So insectivorous plants are generally present in areas where soil is not rich in nutrition. Thus, these plants get their food by digesting insects caught in a trap formed by the modified leaves. So let's discuss about the first insectivorous plant, that is bladderwort. In this plant, leaves are highly segmented, that is, it is divided into parts. They get modified into sac or bladder-like structure. As you can see in this module, it gets modified into bladder-like structure, or we can say container-like structure, which has got a lid or a trapdoor. What is the work of this trapdoor? It closes as the insect sits on the leaf. So these leaves have got the mechanism to catch insects. Now I suppose that you have understood what happens whenever an insect comes and sits on the surface of this bladder. It can sense, as we have sense organs, which responds. For example, if mother makes Maggi, we can smell it, and through our sense organ, that is nose, and we can understand that yes, something tasty is prepared. Similarly, these plants are very sensitive. As soon as the insect comes and sits over the leaf, the lid gets closed. Once the lid gets closed, the digestive enzymes, now what is digestive enzyme? It is the secretion that helps in digestion of the food. So these digestive enzymes, which are secreted within the surface of the bladder or inside the surface of the bladder, they can digest the insect. So these are also the characteristics of an insectivorous plant. So we can conclude with this that each bladder in a bladderwort has a hollow chamber having an opening. This opening or mouth has a trapdoor which allow insects to enter inside. Once the insects enter into it, they cannot come out and they are digested by the plant. The next modification we have to discuss about is modification in another insectivorous plant, that is pitcher plant, where the leaf is modified into a pitcher, that is a large container-like structure which is used to trap the insects. As you can see in all the three figures, it is showing a large container-like structures which has an opening at the tip and there is a lid-like structure on the top which helps in trapping of the insects. The interior part of the petiole is coiled in pitcher plant. That is, the interior part of the petiole is coiled like a tendril that holds the pitcher in an erect, that is straight position. You can see that in the figure number 3. The tendril is holding it in erect, straight position. Then the leaf apex. What is the leaf apex? It is the outer end of the leaf which forms the lid. As you can see in the figure number 1, a leaf-like structure is visible that forms the lid of the pitcher plant. Now, once the insect enters in the pitcher through the opening, it slips downwards and the lid closes. As you can see in the figure number 2, the insect is moving down and the lid is getting closed. It is half closed shown here, but slowly it covers it up. The insect, it slips downwards and finally the lid closes. Then what happens? The insect is digested by the various enzymes or juices which are secreted inside the pitcher plant. So we can say that in a pitcher plant, the leaf is modified into a pitcher. The apex of the leaf forms the lid and the petiole of the leaf coils like a tendril. As soon as an insect enters into the pitcher through its opening, the lid closes and the plant then secretes digestive juices which helps in digesting the insect. The next modification is seen, the next type of modification is seen in Venus flytrap. In this, the edge of the leaf, that is, the surface end of the leaf has long, pointed, stiff hair. Stiff hair means which is not easy to bend. And you can also see in the figure number 1, the first part of the figure, that the leaf blade or lamina is divided into 2 parts. As it is visible here, 2 parts are visible and each part on its edge has stiff hair-like structures. And in the center is the midrib, which acts as a hinge. When any insect is caught by the leaf, the edges of the leaf interlock. As you can see in the second part of the module, in the second figure, that the insect, when it is trapped inside, when it is into the leaf, when it is trapped into the leaf, slowly the 2 leaf blades, the 2 parts of the leaf blade start interlocking. Now what does that mean? Interlocking means the two edges, they come closer to each other and finally they get closed. And this prevents the escape of the insect. The plant then secretes juices which helps in digestion of the insect. Means the insect gets digested by the plant. So what do you understand from this? We can conclude that in Venus flytrap, each leaf has long pointed hairs on its edges. The lamina is divided into two parts and the midrib is acting as the hinge. Hinge is the movable part of the joint. As you have hinge in the doors, which helps in movement of the door to and fro. Means in opening and closing, this hinge acts. The same way in Venus flytrap also, the midrib acts as a hinge. When the insect is caught, the leaf closes and secretes digestive juices to digest the insect. Now, the next topic for the day is vegetative propagation in leaves. Let's see the special type of vegetative propagation through leaves. Example is seen in Bryophyllum and Begonia. These are two plants which develop the new plant through vegetative propagation from the leaves. Now, what do you understand by vegetative propagation? Vegetative propagation means it is a method of producing a new plant from the vegetative parts of the plant. Now, what is vegetative part of the plant? The vegetative part of the plant is the leaf, stem or root. In Bryophyllum and Begonia, vegetative propagation will take place through the leaf. The leaf in the Bryophyllum, as you can see in the module, the leaf in the Bryophyllum plant is broad and it has notches on the margins. As you can see here, these are the notches. These points are the notches from where the leaves arise. The birds arise. The birds arise from the notches and these birds are called as epiphyllous birds. Epiphyllous birds means the birds which have the potential to produce new plants, and this new plant which will arise from the notches will have shoots, small leaves, and also it will have roots. So the epiphyllous leaves are developed on the periphery of the leaf. What is periphery of the leaf? As you can see in the module, that this is the periphery of the leaf, that is the edge of the leaf. So the epiphyllous birds develop from the periphery. Because of this reason only we call it epiphyllous birds. And these birds, when they drop off from the leaf and get placed in the soil, they develop into a new plant. And this new plant will have the roots, small leaves, and also the shoot. The vegetative propagation in Begonia also takes place through the same way, same manner as in Bryophyllum. Now let me tell you about an activity that can be performed at home. For this we need the Bryophyllum leaves. Many of you must be having this plant at your home. So you can perform this activity. Those who don't have, don't go in search of it right now because it's lockdown time. This lockdown period of time, we cannot move out to find out such things. So those who have this plant at home, they can do this activity. And when the lockdown will get over, you can find out. If you get it, you can perform this activity. So what is to be done? The leaf of Bryophyllum is to be taken. Either you can cut it into pieces or you can take the complete leaf as it is shown in the module. The Bryophyllum leaf is taken. It is put into the pot, or you can put it in the soil on the ground also. Then we have to leave it exposed to sunlight and other environmental factors for few days. But we have to keep in mind that every day we have to sprinkle some water over it, over the soil. What for? To keep the soil moist. Now after few days, that is around 10 to 12 days, what will be observed? We'll observe a new shoot, or we can say a tiny plantlet grows out or emerges out from the epiphyllous bud. So this proves that vegetative propagation by leaves occurs in Bryophyllum. Let's recap what we have discussed today. We have discussed when a leaf is modified into a thin thread-like structure, it is called as a leaf tendril. Then we have discussed about spines. When a leaf is modified into spines for defensive purpose, it is called as a leaf spine. Then we have discussed that the leaves get modified as scale leaves for protection and storage. Such leaves are called as scale leaves. Then we have also discussed about plants which trap and digest insects for their protein requirement, and such plants are called as insectivorous plants. Then we have discussed about pitcher plant. The leaf is modified into a pitcher, that is a container-like structure, to trap the insects. Then we have also discussed about bladderwort, that is the leaves in bladderwort are highly segmented and they are modified into sac-like structures which are called as bladders. Then we have also discussed about venous flytrap, where when any insect is caught by the leaf, the edges of the leaf interlock. And the last topic we have discussed today is vegetative propagation by leaves, which occurs in plants like Bryophyllum and Begonia. With this, we end up today's session. Hope to meet you again in the next session. Till then, stay safe, stay protected. God be with you all.